This is a cute one. This is at graduation, and I've got Rebekah right next to me. My name's Larry Gould, and I'm Rebekah's father. Rebekah, at an early age, walked to a different beat. There was this rebellious attitude. Rebekah was always the last one to come when she was called. She was tough, but very loving. She was definitely her own person. When Rebekah was just a few years old, her mother and I divorced. It was kind of a tumultuous situation. I fought for custody for years.
All right, you ready to put this away?
When you only have your kids on certain weekends,
Happy Halloween.
you want to make the best and the most of every moment that you have. We take them to restaurants, swimming, everything you can imagine that you'd do that would be different and fun. You know, every parent, I think, looks at their children and says, okay, wonder what they're going to be when they grow up. There's certain types of people that when they make up their mind, they're going to go for it. And that was Rebekah. Rebekah grew up really all over Arkansas. She ended up in the Mountain View area.
The Arkansas Ozarks are very geographically isolated from the rest of the country. A lot of places around here did not have paved highways until the 1960s. Even today, there are many places up here where you cannot get cell phone reception for days at a time. It really is remote. Mountain View, Arkansas has just under 3,000 people. Rebekah moved to the area in the late 90s. That's where she stayed after she graduated high school. Mountain View has a small town vibe. Everybody knows everybody. And everyone knew Rebekah.
Rebekah was one of the most beautiful people I knew, inside and out. In 2004, she didn't have a place to live, and I had an extra bedroom, and we just got to know each other through living together. I had 2 weenie dogs, and she had her dogs, and so that kind of bonded us. Rebekah was fun-loving, free-spirited, feisty. She wasn't afraid to back down from a fight if she needed to, but at the same time, she was very caring and very giving.
In 2004, Rebekah was 22, and she had been dating Casey McCullough.
Casey and I first met whenever we were working at Sonic. We hit it right off because, well, we shared a taste in music, movies, and just art all together, and we became friends. He sang and played the guitar. Whenever you're working, especially in fast food, you kind of got to entertain yourself to get through the monotony, you know, and Casey was good at entertaining. They had brought in a new general manager, and he brought with him some of his friends. And that group was Teresa Apple and Rebekah.
I was behind the counter working, and I heard Laren say, "Who is that walking in the front door?" And Casey's like, "Oh, no, she's mine. She's beautiful."
Casey and Rebekah became inseparable, and Casey kind of became all about Rebekah.
She always said how sweet he was, you know, how he just kind of doted on her.
But at the same time, Rebekah was going through a period of transition. 22, it's a time in our lives when we're figuring out who we're going to be, what we're going to do.
Sometime in late summer of 2004, Rebekah asked to talk to me privately. She wanted to move over to the Fayetteville area to go to a college there that would prep her to be accepted into the University of Arkansas. Her goal was to become a Razorback. That's what she wanted. She made a comment to me that I'll never forget. She said, "Dad, I want to be like you." She meant to make something of her life academically and to go on and grow.
Rebekah had a sister, Danielle. She was 1 year younger, and so they were very close. She and Danielle had moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas. They were going to a community college there, and on weekends, Rebekah would come back down with Danielle. Danielle would stay with her boyfriend at the time, and Rebekah would stay with Casey. On Friday, September 17th, 2004, Rebekah and Danielle drove from Fayetteville down to Mountain View.
So Rebekah drove her car. It's about a 3-hour drive. So they're talking, they're listening to music. And once they got to Mountain View, Rebekah dropped off Danielle. And then she continued on to Casey's house just outside the town of Melbourne. The plan was for Rebekah to pick Danielle up on Monday afternoon to go back to school because they had classes on Tuesday. But Rebekah never showed up.
I was at my office, and there was a phone call. It was from Rebekah's mother, and she was frantic. Danielle was upset that Rebekah didn't show up to pick her up, and then there were calls made to her cell phone, and there was no response. So I shut my office down, drove to Melbourne.
After Rebekah did not show up on that Monday, Danielle called her mother, Shirley. They started to call friends. They were calling Casey, everyone they could think of, and they couldn't find her. Tuesday morning, Shirley called the Izard County Sheriff's Department to ask police to do a welfare check on Rebekah.
In a welfare check, you're just looking for a human being. You're not looking necessarily for evidence of a crime. At 8:30 on Tuesday morning, that deputy who was dispatched stopped by Sonic and located Casey, and the two of them together went to Casey's residence.
When the deputy arrived at the trailer with Casey, they looked around. Her car was parked there. Her purse, her wallet, her fluffy little white dog. A lot of her clothes were there. All of Rebekah's things were there, but she was gone.
They went into Casey's bedroom. Things looked a little bit in disarray. There was a broken ashtray. There was a mirror that appeared to have fallen off the wall. And Casey remarked that the sheets were not on his bed. The deputy lifted up the mattress, and that's when he found a large blood stain on the underside. So he asked Casey if he could look in the washing machine. And upon opening the lid of the washing machine, he did see bedding in there. He also noticed in the bleach dispenser tray what appeared to be blood.
Casey claimed that he had no idea where the blood had come from. But you gotta imagine what was going through the deputy's mind. I mean, he was sent out there to do a welfare check, and now he's found a crime scene. Rebekah was still missing, and things, they were not looking good for Casey.
Once the local police found the blood on the mattress, they did exactly the right thing. They immediately turned the case over to the Arkansas State Police.
When Arkansas State police investigators arrived on scene, they found a very large blood stain on the carpet. Blood spatter in the corner of the bedroom. Bloody pillows stuffed under Casey's bed, and a wash rag underneath his bed.
There were little spots of what looked like blood on one of the trash cans, and there were cleaning supplies on the counter. It looked like someone had done a cleanup job.
The back door of the trailer appeared to have been broken in some form or fashion, as if someone was trying to break in or out of it. When they inspected the back porch of the house, they found blood smears on the steps.
The trailer is in a very remote location. It's set back from the road. You have to know exactly where it is. Police developed the theory that there had been some kind of an altercation. Something bad had happened to Rebekah in that trailer.
I was working at a local newspaper. I had been there for about 7 months. I had done a lot of local reporting, local government, small town stuff. I was young. I was just out of college. I got a call, and a woman told me that her niece had vanished. And so I got in my truck, and I drove south to Melbourne. I arrived at the sheriff's department. I met Dr. Larry Gould.
So you arrived in Melbourne. Did they tell you about blood in the trailer? Or...
I didn't know any details. The sheriff told me that Rebekah, she's at least missing. I thought, well, we just have to find her. We all paired up differently in the search.
The search efforts were primarily focused around where the McCullough residence was.
One thing that stands out in my mind is we were all out down this dirt road that was up from Casey's. We were 6 to 10 feet apart, and everybody was silent. And so I just started screaming, "Rebekah, Rebekah, can you hear me? Are you hurt? Can you hear me?" To know that Rebekah was out there somewhere, it was just very scary.
As the search for Rebekah progressed, the investigation into the case is full on at this point.
When someone goes missing, police always have to look at the partner, the boyfriend, girlfriend of the person who's missing. Casey would have been an obvious person police would want to talk to because A, he was her boyfriend, B, she was staying in his home.
Today's date is September 22nd, 2004. And the following is going to be a taped interview conducted by myself, Sergeant Mark Hollingsworth, the Arkansas State Police Criminal Division. And the interview is with Casey R. McCullough. Hey, tell me, how did you come to know Rebekah?
We worked at Sonic together, and I thought she was the most beautiful creature I've ever seen.
In his initial interview with investigators, Casey said that he and Rebekah were not dating anymore, but they would still sleep in the same bed.
And how'd that work out?
Worked out pretty good. We just decided to stay friends.
And did she stay with you this past weekend?
Yes, she did.
Casey outlined pretty much what they did that weekend.
He said everything was pretty much normal, things were good. He had to work Sunday morning, and then he and Rebekah went down to Mountain View, rented movies, and then supposedly they went back to Casey's trailer Sunday evening.
We returned back home, and I think we were cooking. And she looks out the window, and she sees somebody out on the dirt road. Then I look out there, and I told her it was my cousin. I went out there, and we talked a little bit. I went back in, and he left out.
All right, take me into the next morning, which is Monday morning.
I woke Rebekah up. She took me to work. All I remember is saying bye and smiling to each other and waving. That's the last time I saw Rebekah.
Casey said that he worked all day after Rebekah dropped him off at work, and that when he got off work, that she was supposed to come and pick him up, but she never showed up.
Casey said he didn't go home at all that day. He hung out with friends and stayed the night at their house. The next morning, he went straight from his friends to work, and that's when he spoke to Rebekah's mother.
She sounded really worried and freaking out, and so I asked my manager if I could go down to the house and see if she was there. I drive up, and I see her car. I walk in, and I see her dog. Rebekah goes nowhere without that dog.
Okay.
I checked our room, and no sheets on the bed. And I thought it was very odd because she just washed them the week earlier. I feel like there's something, not right.
Let me ask you this, Casey. What do you think has happened to Rebekah?
I think she was killed. I don't know who did it.
Just one at a time, okay? Take your time on this. No, it's difficult. Where do you think it took place at?
It had to have happened there.
Did you have anything to do with Rebekah's disappearance?
No, sir.
Did you in any way cause any harm to Rebekah?
No, sir.
Well, the police can't really hold someone without any evidence. So while investigators may have had suspicions about Casey, they had to let him go. What they really needed to do was verify Casey's story.
On Sunday, September 19th, I was grocery shopping. And as I was exiting, I saw Rebekah and Casey. And I was like, oh, hey, y'all, what are you doing? And Rebekah said, we're just renting some movies. Gonna hang out and watch movies tonight. The next day, I was working at Sonic. And Casey was supposed to be there at 8. And I remember the opening manager saying, where's Casey? Screaming from the kitchen. Then Casey showed up. Nothing really out of the ordinary other than just, sorry, I'm here. So he went back to the kitchen and he went to work. And I think that I saw Rebekah's car waiting to turn.
And then apparently she stopped by the gas station. The cashier told police that Rebekah had been in the store, that she'd bought a cappuccino, and that she went out and took a right back toward Casey's trailer.
So sometime after 8 a.m., that's the window of time when she may have disappeared. Throughout Monday, Casey's at work.
I went in to check my schedule. I see Casey. I don't think he got off till about 4 or so that day. I say, hey, buddy, we're getting ready to go to the movies this evening. And Casey says, okay, cool, I'll go. We go to the movies. We go out to, get something to eat. And when we get back to my house, either his phone was dead or out of minutes. I can't remember. He says, Larry, can I borrow your phone? He called his phone, I guess checking his voicemails. He comes back and he says, nobody can get a hold of Rebekah. Her mom's left messages on my phone, freaking out. We all just reassured him. Maybe she doesn't have signal. Maybe her phone's dead.
They smoke some weed. Casey decides he's gonna stay the night. So he never returns to his own residence that day.
Casey stayed with us. He was there the whole night.
Several witnesses vouched for Casey, so investigators, they thought this was an airtight alibi, but Rebekah was still missing.
The police, they've obviously found this very bloody crime scene. At this point, they have to find her.
Police in Izard County are performing a wide-scale search in an effort to find a missing Mountain View woman.
Each day that passed, the panic slowly came in. Each day a little more, and a little more.
Monday, September 27th, 2004, I got a tip that they are searching down Highway 9. As I was coming onto Highway 9, I noticed in the sky, there was a few at first, but I noticed vultures. And I noticed as I got closer to the spot where they were searching that there were more and more. And it was really ominous because it was like a perfectly bright, sunny day, and you just see these birds swirling. And then I see cars lined on the side of the road. So I pull in behind this set of cars. I get out and down this embankment. I see a searcher. And I asked the searcher, I said, are you guys out here looking for Rebekah? And he points, and there she was.
Rebekah's body was found very near the side of the road. It's a steep incline. It looked like she had been dumped, like someone had tossed the body down.
She was partially clad in just a t-shirt and a pair of underwear. She was in a what I would call loose fetal position.
She had been dead probably for about a week. I arrived back at the sheriff's department, and Dr. Gould comes walking up to me, and he asked me, he said, "Did they find my daughter?" And I said, "Larry, you need to go talk to the sheriff." At that point, he grabbed me and said, "Did they find my daughter?" And I said, "Yes."
At that point, I mean, I just obviously lost it. I mean, I was just in tears, and still to this day, I mean, I had wanted to see her, and they told me, "You shouldn't." And that can play on your mind.
We were all hoping, to get her back, to have her back in our lives. And the shock of knowing that she was never coming back, and that somebody could do something so heinous to her. It was very hard to come back from that.
Family and friends in Mountain View and surrounding communities are coming to grips with the shocking murder of a college student.
I would not say at this point that we have cleared anybody as far as being a potential suspect, nor have we zeroed in on any one particular solid suspect.
I can remember when I first heard about Rebekah's murder. It was so unusual for something like that to happen here.
The thought that someone would come in and kill Rebekah just kind of rattled people's minds. Did she know the person? Was it a stranger just come through? It kind of scared everybody.
Police, when they're developing a list of suspects, they want to say, okay, was she having conflicts with anybody? People did say Rebekah could scrap. Yes, she loved her friends, but if you got in her face, there would be a fight. There were a lot of rumors at the time. This could have been a girl fight type situation.
Problem was, there were so many rumors that were so untrue. I feel like the police just kind of ran with whatever they could. Anybody that was even remotely close to the case was a suspect. When I walked in and done my first interview, I was like, "You did this. You know who did this." We've been told that after the crime, you went and helped clean up the mess. And that just shattered me.
You have to understand how the law works. Them people make themselves accessory to a crime if they have knowledge and any kind of involvement before or after. And we're twisted. They can be charged with capital murder. They can't put that needle in their arm.
I'm telling you the truth. I know nothing about what happened to her.
I was in shock. The whole time I was just shaking.
As you're moving through an investigation, you really have to follow every lead, even if it's based on town gossip. And investigators, they found nothing concrete connecting any of Rebekah's female friends to her murder, but that did not stop the rumors.
The rumor mill, it just really divided everyone. It divided the whole community. We didn't know who to trust. If you walked in a gas station, you just get these looks and like whispers, and you never had any peace. You never had any time to just sit and mourn your friend.
When enough people buy into a rumor, that just becomes the accepted narrative. And that's when the real truth just gets buried.
We now know that it was a horrific crime. We're in shock. It's the type of thing that you think only happens to other people.
Dr. Larry Gould and his daughters, Tiffany and Danielle, hold on to each other for comfort. Their sister Rebekah was found murdered, and at the bottom of this embankment,
The state police has the best of the best, as far as I'm concerned, involved with this case.
I did what everybody does when these things happen. You trust law enforcement. But this is the preliminary aspect of a criminal investigation, and they're not going to tell you anything.
As with any investigation, only members of law enforcement knew what Rebekah's injuries were. None of the details from the autopsy were made public or shared with Rebekah's family.
The official cause of death listed by the medical examiner was blunt force injuries of the head, and the official manner of death was classified as a homicide. She had basically a shattered nasal structure, so she'd clearly been hit in the nose. And then she also had 4 to 5 fractures on the left side of her head.
Whoever hit her really hard.
The medical examiner did say Rebekah possibly could have been strangled, but he couldn't make a conclusion on that. The medical examiner also could not determine whether Rebekah had been sexually assaulted because of the level of decomposition that her body experienced.
As a reporter, I get calls from people all the time. And so I would get little bits and pieces leaked to me. Rebekah reportedly had brought 2 large suitcases with her on this weekend trip to Casey's house. But they only found one of those suitcases.
The other item that was discovered missing was a leg off of Casey's piano in the living room.
Now, this piano leg would periodically just fall. It was kind of an older piano. Police were operating under the assumption that she was possibly struck in the head with this loose piano leg. And whoever killed her likely wasn't going there with the intention of killing her. Early on in Rebekah's case, the lead detective, he got promoted. So a new detective was actually brought in, a guy named Dennis Simons.
Special Agent Dennis Simons was a reserve member of the U.S. Marines. He was a trooper with the Arkansas State Police for about 5 years before he officially joined the Criminal Investigations Department in 2004, and he was local to the Mountain View area.
Rebekah was known to consume marijuana. Dennis had a theory that this was drug-related, and so he's trying to vet everybody in Rebekah's world who has some type of drug connection. He interviewed a lot of people, and he went down a lot of rabbit holes. And so you have a new suspect, and that's Chris.
Chris had a reputation of being a bad boy, had a rough exterior, had a rough upbringing.
Chris was in the drug scene in Mountain View, and he and Rebekah were friends.
He knew Rebekah from school. They had grown up together. Rebekah did buy some pot from Chris's friend a few days before the murder, and there were rumors going around that Chris and his friend might have had something to do with it.
There were some local residents who said they overheard Chris make some comments about the murder, about not actually committing the murder, but maybe being there or helping to move her body with his vehicle.
Investigators interviewed Chris multiple times. They gave him a lie detector test, which he failed. So police became sort of convinced that he and his friend had been responsible for it.
Chris kept telling investigators that he was innocent. But the more he was investigated, the more people in the community seemed to come forward with these stories about him.
Last time I gave you any stuff to try to help you out in this investigation, like a lie detector test, I thought there was a question on there. Do you just keep with me? I mean, keep investigating everybody in this crime until I figure out exactly what happened. Trying to stick me in a penitentiary for something I didn't have nothing to do with it. I didn't kill Rebekah. What would I have any reason to kill Rebekah for? When you keep trying to act like I did it. I wasn't there. I didn't have nothing to do with it then. That's where to go.
Chris's vehicle was seized and processed for forensic evidence. They were obviously looking for Rebekah's DNA, and they were looking for forensic evidence inside Casey's trailer.
I'd get some kind of a notice that the Arkansas State Police wanted to bring me up to date. And they told me they had 2 suspects. They wouldn't give me names. They were being watched, and that they felt that there was an arrest was imminent. And so my hopes and my thoughts were just all over the place.
lead investigator in the case, Dennis Simons, he was telling people that Chris was the guy.
But they never found any evidence that he had been to that trailer or that he even knew where it was. No evidence, no DNA, nothing that would put him at the crime scene.
Despite all of the rumors swirling around Chris, the prosecutor on the case eventually told Dennis Simons that the evidence was just too circumstantial, and in order to charge Chris and his friend with Rebekah's murder, he needed more.
As time went on, I tried to make life go on because I had to, not because I wanted to.
For months, sometimes years at a time, there'd be no investigative activity.
It was almost like they just set her case file on a shelf and it was never coming back down, you know, that they'd given up.
People just wanted answers, and there was none being given because the investigation was going nowhere.
I didn't have any updates, any facts, none. I knew that the only way I was going to get information was to become my own investigator. And so that led me to begin the letter writing. I began by writing a letter to the prosecutor at that time. As of next month, 8 years ago, I lost my daughter to the hands of a killer. Her case remains unsolved, so I have decided to formally request certified copies of all records concerning my daughter's murder. I was after anything they'd give me. You know, let me look at your file, let me see where it fits into maybe the rumors that I've been told. I'm writing for the second time, as I have not received a response from you. This is unacceptable and frankly cruel. Accountability and justice are paramount. Stop hiding under the guise. Perhaps if you have a child of your own, you can understand my feelings. I was pissed. When you have a parent that's reaching out like this, after so many years, I think you can set aside some time. I am politely and respectfully asking you to cooperate or provide me a no-nonsense written explanation as to why you will not provide justice for my daughter Rebekah's murder. I'm pretty sure this is the one that he gave in a little bit, maybe because of all the being so forceful. But he finally released the autopsy report to me. And that was it.
For 9 years, Dr. Gould had no idea how his daughter died. And the autopsy report finally gave him some answers. But it was really, in the end, just breadcrumbs, given that they'd been investigating this case now for nearly a decade.
A year or 2 years later, I saw Dennis Simons. We had our first real introduction. And he told me that there are certain cases that will never be solved. Crazy. I mean, literally crazy.
So Dr. Gould and I started reconnecting. He asked me, what can we do to force the state police to investigate this case better? I said, Doc, there's only one thing I know of, is public pressure. And on March 13th, 2018, I got an email, and it was from Catherine Townsend. She wanted to do a podcast about Rebekah's case.
I got involved with the Rebekah Gould case in 2018. I am from Arkansas. My sister was very good friends with Rebekah Gould's sister, Danielle. Danielle had been completely traumatized by losing Rebekah, and she just felt that it wasn't being investigated. Over the years, I would go home to visit, and everybody would talk about this case, this unsolved case. And it just really kind of drew me in, and I kept wondering why hadn't her case been solved. When I started investigating the case, I went to see Dennis Simons. My attitude going in was, even if he couldn't share any information with me, I just wanted to let him know what I was doing as a courtesy. And he openly told me he thinks it's Chris and his friend. He said something like, I arrest him every chance I get, and he said, I'm making sure he does life on the installment plan. He was arresting Chris every chance that he got, and he was gonna keep him in jail on whatever charge he could. And that's when I thought the investigation was in serious trouble. When I got to town, people initially did not really want to talk to me. It was difficult There are a lot of people here who are not used to outsiders, maybe a little bit hesitant to accept outside help. And it just took time to build trust with people. It was going back and finding everyone who said they had information, one person at a time, one door at a time. It was a real-time investigation. Rebekah was beautiful, popular, and full of life. It's been 14 years, and Rebekah's killer has never been found.
The podcast launched on October 17th, 2018, and it was like a bombshell going off.
It took a case that people had forgotten about for 14 years, and it made it into really a national sensation. All of a sudden, everyone was talking about Rebekah's case.
That's the first podcast I'd ever listened to. And, I mean, it was just like you were there and you were investigating with her, which is I'm all about, you know.
Well, it was exciting to me. It was like you were addicted to something that you couldn't stay away from.
All these groups started forming on social media. There were a lot of like theories and innuendo that kind of boiled back to the surface again.
Everything in the world was being thrown out there, that at some point there was something on there that we had killed her and put her in and buried her in my backyard.
When the podcast came out, that was a good thing for Rebekah and for her case. But the old feelings and the old rumors and things like that, it made me very sick to my stomach.
I took no joy ever in putting people's names out there and traumatizing them in any way. But I think it's important to remember that it's an unsolved murder. We've got to figure out who did it.
As the episodes kept coming out, it was becoming clearer and clearer that the narrative that we had been fed by the police was wrong. Something wasn't making any sense here.
I was trying to find answers. So I did a local radio show. I said, call me if you have any information. I then got a call from someone whose voice was shaking. This person was terrified. And what they told me, that blew me away.
He said that they got into it. The way he said it, he just lost it.